people assess you in the first 7 seconds. So, what do people see the first 7 seconds they meet you?
It's not fair. Okay. I'm not saying it's right, but I tell my clients and students how to make the most out of impression management, which
Hmm.
is being really honest with yourself, maybe having a fairy godmother like me or an advocate that hovers 20,000 feet above you and says, you have a facial expression that isn't appealing or isn't inviting, your tone of voice. And I only know all this because I made all the mistakes.
Hey everyone, welcome to our show. I'm your host today, Melanie Johnson. Welcome to the Elite Expert Insider. Today we have a #1 international best-selling author, part of the Entrepreneur Secrets book, Helen Perry. She has been a corporate and personal image consultant for a long time. I have learned so much from her. I have attended a couple of her seminars that she's done, and gosh, I thought that I knew things, right? I used to be a former Miss Michigan, that I would know my P's and Q's about this stuff, but I learned things from Helen. So you're going to learn some great stuff from her too today. Helen, thanks for coming.
My pleasure, Melanie. Congratulations, Mrs. Michigan. Ms.
Thank
Michigan.
Yeah, Miss Michigan. Yeah. So tell us, how did you get even started in this industry? Because it's not everyone is a personal image consultant.
I just think I'm a person that colors outside the lines. A lot of people do really well in jobs 9 to 5. And if you look at the numbers, most people do it that way. But I was the seventh of 8 kids, and I just loved pretty things. When I was a little girl, I would walk down Shepherd to Battlesteins and have a nice store that used to be in Houston and just look around. So I got teased in the seventh grade for being ugly. And I
Oh,
was like, Scarlett O'Hara, I'll never be ugly again. I think I dressed real differently. I was at a new school. I was a new kid. And I went on to high school at St. Agnes, and I was president of my class, and that worked real well for me. And then I went to LSU and I majored in speech. But I married at 21, and I had three little boys by the time I was 26 or 7. And I went to a seminar that one of my friends were going to by a man named Robert Ponte. And he was an internationally known image consultant. And he would get people in touch with the statement they made with their appearance. He
mhm.
told me at age 28 that I looked like a PTA mom who sold Tide at meetings. That I want you to come do my closet and help me. And I said, you need those. She's been trained by Robert Ponte. She said, no, I want you because you've just had babies and you understand. So I took a trained consultant with me to make sure I was doing it right. And I was paying her a little more than the girl paid me, $35 an hour at the time, and training. And then I went out to San Francisco and trained with him. And I was his Houston sponsor. God rest his soul. We lost him a few months ago, but we remained friends all these years. And he really put a fire under me. And I think that being bullied is horrible, but it's when we hear things that are uncomfortable that we grow. And so I've added things in my business through the years, makeup, etiquette, a lot of public speaking, and the etiquette class for children. My mission is to stop bullying and to leave a legacy. So I would love to speak with organizations that want to continue this program. It's in a really good format. So that's
Got
my heart, my students, and I got married a couple of years ago, and we're traveling a lot, but I'm still working. Not as much, but I still love to do speaking engagements and dress people and teach classes.
That's why I love that you did the chapter in this book, that it leaves part of your legacy with the message that you're taking. You chock full so much into that chapter. I was so impressed with all of the great information that was in there. And one of the things that got me too, and just even in the beginning, is people assess you in the first 7 seconds. So what do people see the first 7 seconds they meet you?
It's not fair. Okay. I'm not saying it's right, but I tell my clients and students how to make the most out of impression management, which
Hmm.
is being really honest with yourself, maybe having a fairy godmother like me or an advocate that hovers 20,000 feet above you and says, you have a facial expression that isn't appealing or isn't inviting, your tone of voice. And I only know all this because I made all the mistakes. And
Yeah.
people would tell me you're intimidating. And I think I was the seventh of 8 kids, and I had to claw my way to the dinner table. If you were late, you missed. And you had to be strong in this big Irish Catholic family. So I needed to soften my tone and look at my verbiage and how I was communicating. So then I really got into the research, which I shared in the chapter about impression management. And then I started researching the most annoying habits at work.
Oh, I want to
The
hear what
num
those are.
well, the number one argument in offices is the thermostat. And so I teach people to take care of yourself. Take a heater, take a sweater, take a fan. Take care of yourself so you can fit into the team.
Yeah. You don't have to be the complainer or trying to adjust it.
A whiner.
Control what you can control versus
Mhm.
having to complain and be the whiner about fixing this. And especially if we're women, if we're anywhere near menopause, we're having temperature changes throughout the day.
That's right. It really is about being other centered, being a team player, contributing.
Yep.
And Robert Ponte said, don't take your story with you. Don't show up to a client and, oh, I didn't sleep last night or I'm having the worst day. No, you are a professional. You have no problems. You create no problems. You solve all their problems.
Yeah. Solve all their
Wouldn't it be
problems.
great?
Looking for, right? Everybody's
Well,
looking.
that's why they hire you.
Yeah, that exactly. That's why I'm calling you or trying to see if I want to work with you. Can you solve the problem for me? Are you the person? And I really know a lot of times it's the energy that you show up with. Like you say, if you're bringing or focusing on you didn't sleep or whatever that is versus the good positive energy, that attracts them. People like to work with positive energy, don't you think?
Yes. And God gave us two ears and one mouth. So when you're working for someone, you want to listen twice as much as you speak.
Hmm.
And when I see things in a closet, I might look at a dress and I might be thinking, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen before. Just say, oh, you're prettier than this dress. Or,
Yeah.
or to a man, that jacket doesn't really make your physique look as strong as it is.
Yeah.
Tailoring is really important.
That's a nice way to say it. How do we assess our image and our brand? So, if we're doing it ourselves, which got a lot of information out there, you gave so much in the book. So, if they take some of that, what should they be doing? Let's say, do I stand in the mirror and how do I assess my image? Or do I ask friends to assess my image? What are things I should be looking for? All of
It's
those things
hard
are
to
like
do it by
portfolio
yourself.
one. Okay.
It's very difficult to do it by yourself, but it's good to listen to the feedback you get. And if someone tells you're intimidating once, it may just be their thing. But if it's a pattern and you hear it over and over again, then that's something you need to look at. If people aren't returning your calls, if you're not getting the promotions you want or feel you deserve, if your career is not escalating at the pace, you have to really be honest. And when you go in to ask for a raise or you want to evaluate, you have to look at the value you are bringing to that organization before you ask for more.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing from you too, it's two different types of image and branding. One is your internal, the
Mhm.
energy you're bringing, the value you're bringing, and your energy. And the other is external. How are you well groomed? Are you showing up as the brand you want to represent? Are you showing up like schlocky, your shirt's not ironed and casual? How are you showing up
Right.
externally as well as that? What are some external things you can talk about?
That should be handled and people need to spend time on it. Go every week or so, go through your closet, look for buttons that are coming off. And maybe while you're watching your favorite program, shine your shoes. All of that needs to be a way of life. You need to have a good dry cleaners, a good tailor, a good hair person. All these things, your nails need to be clean. They don't have to be an expensive manicure, but filed and people have a lot of tattoos now. And so you have to decide if you're in a culture where if you're in the restaurant business and you're serving, that seems to be okay. And a lot of people do that. But if you're in a more conservative business culture, then you want to dress to cover those. You don't want anything to scream loudly and cause any disagreement.
Yes.
Um,
Kinda what do you wanna be known for? I'm gonna use an obscure example. My older son, he started doing jujitsu, and my family's a bunch of wrestlers, and he couldn't wait to get cauliflower ear, if you know what that is. It's where their ear gets really deformed. And I'm like, "Son, why would you want that? It's painful, and it's, like, scarring you for the rest of your life." But in his mind, he uses that. He wanted to be branded as a fighter. He wanted to be part of that community. So if somebody saw him, they knew. It's almost like a protector instinct. It's like, that's going to be part of my personal brand. And it's so obscure and odd. Like, I would think I wouldn't want that, but he wanted that as part of his personal brand. Yeah, tattoos are part of your personal brand. And so many young people don't even think about before they get them. They're getting them when they're in their teens and early 20s. And I'm trying to think of the one comedian that had all these tattoos. He was on Saturday Night Live, and now he's getting them all removed because that was dumb.
Painful. Yeah, you get older and the skin sags. Yes, you want to be world class so that the way you dress, the way you speak, your manner, you
Mhm.
can fit in anywhere in the world. Mhm.
Yeah.
Houston, where we live, is the most diversely ethnic uh,
Yeah.
city in the country.
Hmm.
So at any one day, we could be in a meeting with Asians, Hispanics, Blacks, which is great.
Right.
But just be in an approachable lane in the way you present yourself. It
What
will
about,
be you're not hired to be me, you're hired to be productive.
right?
And one of the best books that I recommend in my chapter is Effective Management by Forstman and their podcast. It is like getting an MBA if you listen to their podcast. And it's all about HR issues and whether to give gifts at Christmas, whether to go to the holiday party, or to ask somebody to lunch. All those kind of things really build your relationships and your value with a team.
And if you're going in the corporate world, it's changed so much. You almost
Mhm.
need that roadmap. I love that you suggested that podcast because it's all new stuff of what's going on in corporate world today. Because things you could do 30 years ago, you cannot do or say today. It's a totally
No,
different environment.
no.
And the people in the workforce have changed so dramatically as well. What about body language? What are some tips for how we carry ourselves in body language?
When you shake hands, you want, of course, right hand and you go straight. You don't ever want to have your hand down. That's too controlling and rude. You want to go straight, and your handshake is web to web 2.5 times. That's the standard American handshake with eye contact. Very important.
It's interesting. I've seen political people worldwide where they do that handshake. They're fighting to see who's going to be on top because it is like a power move,
Yes.
or they even start this way and then they turn it over where they're on top. That is a power move.
Or the double handshake. You don't want that.
Yeah.
Um, Arms crossed
Yep. Across
could
your.
mean it gives the vibe that you're not approachable. You can't
Hmm.
just be cold and you're standing
Yeah.
that way, but that's not an open. When you're speaking, this is the gesture, the triangle. This is the gesture of confidence. This, when you're really making a point, or I want to tell you what this means to me, and the hand over the heart. Stroking with the left hand on the side of the face could mean you're lying. And when men get nervous, sometimes they will pull on their socks. I've seen men pull out under their cowboy boots if a girl makes them nervous or something. Or maybe a woman wants to state her possession of her man, and she might just pick a little lint of his jacket while they're talking to other people, or straighten his tie, and or straighten his hair a little, and that's her claim. He's mine.
That is so interesting. I've never heard some of those before. And in case you didn't see this, if you're just listening to that, she was talking about the pyramid is where your fingertips are all touching together at the top and you're making that pyramid. And if you watch professional speakers on the stage, especially on the national world stage, you'll see them doing that pose. Not the whole time, but you'll see them using that periodically. So that's really good stuff. What about communication? What are some of the things that people do wrong when they're communicating and some things that they do right when they're communicating?
Texts and emails. That's the height of rudeness. And you want to always check your spam folder. I'm learning that because you might think they're ignoring you and it went to spam. That's something to be aware of. Your signature on your communication needs to be very clear. Your website, your phone number, so your title, so they know with whom they are communicating. Good grammar, spelling, and written communication. I think it's good to return a call with a call, a text with a text, an email with an email. And then there's social media communication, not look at me,
Yeah. Authentic giving. And
acknowledging, yes, acknowledging others. And tone of voice is very important. Over the phone, it's 86% tone of voice. In person, it's 7% words, 38% tone, 5% appearance. So before we ever open our mouths, we are judged, unfair but true, on these things. When I walk into a room from head to toe, if my image is not, if I didn't spend the time to, and ladies have to wear makeup, it's a business accessory.
yeah.
Sorry, no such thing as natural beauty. It's if you don't use it, and you don't have to be a makeup artist, and you don't have to have the false eyelashes and the whole stage makeup, but it's part of grooming.
Hmm.
So I give lessons on a good basic day makeup and how to do that, how to achieve that. Um, Brush your teeth after lunch. I was at Enron in 99 and everybody had toothbrushes at work, and you see them in the ladies' room. You go, you eat garlic, your whole being has to be refreshing.
True. And you were talking earlier about expressions and things. And there's a key word that they say today. It's like, don't have resting bitch face. That can be for a man or for a woman, right? A lot of people don't realize when they're just listening that their resting face is a downward face versus a pleasant face. We were doing webinars and our team was on the webinars with other people and they were just sitting there, but they looked so bored. Hey guys, you're on our team. You're supposed to be engaged with this content. If you're not engaged, how are the other people going to be engaged? Especially in all these Zoom calls or in webinars, if you're sitting in and you're just like, blah.
Well, Chase Untermeyer was on in Reagan's administration, and he wrote a book called How Important People Act. And he said the camera can be on you at any time. Look at the State of the Union
Oh, yeah.
address. Some of them look like they were sucking on lemons. And
One was asleep, he had his eyes closed.
yeah, and the camera. So
Yeah.
if you're happy and you know it, tell your face.
Yeah. I like that. And if you're not happy, make sure you turn that happy button on so you're looking like you're happy, especially when you're
Right,
out. How do
right.
you find your genius zone? You talk about finding your genius zone. How do you find that?
It's what you would do for free if you didn't have bills to pay. I would do everything I do for my clients for free. I had 3 boys to support and a house payment, and I wanted a career where if the school called and said, "Jack's sick today," I could leave. I didn't want to be stuck downtown in some building
Yep.
where I was chained to a desk. And I always think if you keep your priorities, I thought if I raise these boys, when a kid gets in a ditch and you got to get them in rehab and stuff like that, it is hard to get them out. So if I stayed present and really, and those years go by so fast. If I was a good mom and raised them right, I could really, everything would fall in place. And
Yeah.
it did. It wasn't easy. And there were times when I went through some pretty deep valleys. My sister was violently murdered in a carjacking in 1993 and going through that, but I still had to work. And it did such a mental number on me. Sometimes I wondered if I could even remember how to do what I always did. People identify with you more in your adversities than they do in your successes. So I just kept plugging on. And some days you may work and you might not make a dime, but every day that you work, you're building those bricks, you're building, and it will come back to you. And I
Yep.
pray a lot about moves I make and decisions I make. And I really believe in the power of your faith and trusting because we don't always know.
Yeah, that prayer is really powerful. So, why did you decide to be in this book and write a chapter now?
That one, I didn't plan it either. I spoke at a group where Peter Remington was participating, and he came up to me afterward and just told me about the book and would I want to be in it. And it sounded great. And so here I am.
That's awesome. Tell people where they can find you, Helen, and hire you.
Sure. My website is helen-perry.com. com. And I'm in Houston, but you buy, I fly.
Ah, thanks for stopping by today. If you're looking to
Thank you.
become an international best-selling author, remember to reach out to us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. We help you book podcast and media appearances, as well as make you a number one bestseller. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye. Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a number one bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become number one bestsellers.